So welcome in to another episode of Chi Time with me, Clara Apollo. And these episodes are now getting more and more informal because I just think that is the way the conversations are going. So thank you for being here. And if you haven't been here before, my name's Clara Apollo. I am a Qigong teacher. I also, as it's all changing, and my guest on this show is Nathan Simmonds, and he's been an instrumental part of that shift and change through training me to be a FreeMind hypnotherapy facilitator. Now that's different to actually being a hypnotherapist, but it's really helped me to invite myself into people's psychic realms to help them clear, sort, and find more peace and harmony within and empower themselves. And then from there, I've been doing the Akashic record clearing that some of you probably know me for more recently. So I've got loads of questions to speak with Nathan about because he is super qualified in this arena. In fact, he's going to tell us what he does because I can't remember the whole list of it all. But basically, the dude is on it, and he's done loads of work on himself. He just finds the subconscious realm, the super subconscious, or the multi-levels of multi-dimensional aspects of reality so fascinating, and yet his feet are really on the ground and his heart is super present. So welcome back to Chi Time, Nathan.
Thank you, Clara. Thank you. It's good to be back, and it's good to kind of talk about this stuff. And the other thing that's kind of really juicy, which you talk about, is the dynamic of our relationship and some of that stuff that's evolved out of that over the time we've known each other. And seeing you flourish in that, and the organic combinations of these skills and these approaches that enable you to help the people that you're helping in the way that you do what you do. Which is the reason why I do quite a lot of what I do. Because I think the biggest thing for me is when we look at, which we're going to peel into, the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious, most of it is really airy-fairy in the nicest possible in the nicest possible way. It's really spiritual. Quite a lot of it's really fluffy. Not everyone can get into it. We can do a quick meditation, and some people can connect with it, some people can't. And it's not accessible to everybody, and you have that whole egoic kind of, oh, I'm now spiritually aware, therefore I'm better than you kind of thing. And it's all these different, you have all these different things at play, and actually the combinations of the skills and kind of the work that you're doing with the Akashic record and the combination with the FreeMind hypnotherapy, it just enables those things to be more tangibly accessible, because we're accessing different layers of brain, different layers of mind, in order to bring that to life. Everything that I've experienced has brought me to this point of breaking things down and making it accessible at different points of the mind, so that we can feel it cognitively, believe it subconsciously, and connect into the bigger overarching field that we all sit in and amongst.
Oh, yeah. Have you always been into this, Nathan? When did you first start to sort of wake up and realize there was a multi-levels to your consciousness? When did that sort of kick in for you?
There was always a lot of supernatural experiences when I was a kid, always.
Oh, really? Okay.
I would see, and I haven't had full answers on this, I've explored it a little bit. What I would see is like shadows and silhouettes, like humanoid shadows and silhouettes at different points. So I remember sitting in a classroom when I was younger, I can't remember, maybe 8 years old, and a girl walked to the front of the class, but then I saw this silhouetted figure of the exact same shape of her walking to the front of the class. And it was constantly experiences like this. My mother had a lot of supernatural experiences. She had a lot of encounters with ghosts and poltergeists. She's also seen herself in a past life, kind of real heavy kind of experiences. You're not your average run of the, average everyday experiences. But then at a certain point, because I didn't have any answers at a young age, I was like, right, I don't want this. I got really angry and kind of switched it all off. Disconnected.
Push it away. That's really similar. I think people that have psychic abilities and awareness, it does scare them. I was talking to my mother about this because I know she knows she's got psychic abilities, but she doesn't know what to do with them, and none of her friends are like that. So she just puts them behind a wall, a bit like you're saying. But then if you repress that side of you, it's going to find ways to come through. And is that what happened?
Yes and no. No, I've had other experiences where I've kind of tuned back into it, and then they were negative experiences. Therefore, I tuned back out of it. And through my childhood, and through illness, and through bullying at school, and kind of traumatic stuff, what then actually happened is I ended up getting into recreational drugs more than going down the supernatural route. That came with a whole raft of its own challenges, but also using things like LSD, magic mushrooms, etc. at that point in time, and some of the Shulgin kind of combinations, and to induce those states. But I was doing them recreationally. And there was this one time when I kind of said to a friend of mine, it's like, what if all of this stuff that we're seeing is actually happening all of the time and we just don't know it?
Bingo. I completely agree. Because like back in the day when I was a nurse, I used to do the odd acid trip on my days off because it was like so intense. I think the nursing, I had to find escapism. And it was with friends, and it was all, I never had a bad trip. I didn't have anything that was too strong or too overwhelming. But it did make me realize that if this is like opening the doors to the perception inside, it must be there all the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't be accessing it now, would I? And then it's a similar, like you start on that curious route of like, well, how do I access this then?
Yeah. But then this was happened when I was kind of 18, 19-ish.
Same.
And I said this to a friend of mine, and he just went, "Shut up, Nathan, it's the drugs talking." So I never explored it. It was like I took these people's opinions because they were more literate, drug literate, psychedelic literate than I, and I took their opinion as gospel and kind of shut the idea down. And then all of a sudden, as I'm moving through my life with these spiritual essence to me, with the martial arts I've been doing, and kind of that feel, that Eastern philosophy feel to it, which was great, but not really kind of fully immersing it. Learning psychotherapy, learning coaching, learning NLP, learning the understandings of human behavior, which I've always watched and to a point when I was younger manipulated. But it was exploring this. It was exploring it without a mentor or a guide, and just doing kind of picking things apart in probably a negative, unfacilitated way.
Well, you were like consciousness curious, aren't you? It's like, what is here?
Yeah.
And whatever way you're going around it, you're still curious. You're trying to find answers by exploring. And that is the best way, isn't it?
It is. And at the same time, it's nice to have a safe container to have that in. So what all of these experiences, though, as as I look back retrospectively, is you start to understand that I'm seeing things from two sides of the equation. I was bullied horrendously, and then I became a bully. I understand the coercive behaviors of men trying to get girlfriends, because actually that's kind of the patterns I was using. I was being manipulative. I was using my understanding of psychology in order to get relationships or to get my needs met at that point in time without realizing. So as I'm seeing these things from both sides of the equation, I'm then having an experience at 22 where I overdose on recreational drugs. I take 16 ecstasy tablets and over 5 grams of coke in one go, and my whole world falls apart.
I bet it does. I mean, I know you're pretty tall. You're what, 6'6" or something?
6'6", yeah.
Yeah, and it's like there's quite a, you're not that big, but you have got the muscle. There's quite a lot. You've quite a lot of body mass there, but that is a lot of recreational druggery going in at the same time, isn't it?
Yeah,
you're obviously on it.
Yeah, so this is the thing is having this perspective to see it from both sides of the equation. And don't get me wrong, I don't think all my behaviors were right. I know that it's not a question of right or wrong. Some of them were abhorrent and they weren't okay. And I've done the work on that, and that's my trauma, and I'm processing some of those elements. And then having that understanding of it, literally having my personality pulled apart and everything coming into question without a safe container.
Ooh, I see what you mean. And then realizing what it would be like if you were being held to be able to do that processing, which is what you offer to people.
Yeah, because at no point does anyone need to take 16 ecstasy tablets. Yeah, you can get MDMA assisted therapy and all those things, fantastic. And at the same time, it's a held container. And it took me years to recover from that psychologically, emotionally, and physiologically, because of the input and potentially the damage that had been done at that moment. So when I spoke to people afterwards at psychedelic integration circles years and years afterwards, they were like, that kind of, what happened is your personality just fell apart. You ripped your personality to pieces. And then at the point of rebuilding, over the course of a week, 2 weeks, whatever, you were deciding what you wanted to put back in and leave the other stuff out, which is amazing, powerful.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's not kind of the healthiest way to do it.
No, it's your way. That was what was given to you.
Yeah, that was the way at the time, because literally within 24 hours, I knew that if I carry on doing this, I'll either be dead or in prison. I had a substantial drug deal on the table being offered to me to go into business and selling cocaine. And all of these things happening all at the same time.
But then you bring your discernment filter in, and because it sounds to me like you've always had this sensitivity, but you've not really had the space to explore it until more recently.
Yeah.
So there'd been this inner knowing. And just you were saying about, I think, about having your personality sort of dissolving. I mean, that's really scary. And
yes,
when we speak about surrendering to the moment or dissolving the ego or any of that, that is pretty scary stuff to quite a lot of people.
100%.
And it's kind of, but we know that there's these are gateways or portals into the subconscious realm, so that we can get the conscious mind that's constantly going on its hamster wheel. How do we get in without creating fear and anxiety? And we come back to holding a safe space and being with a safe. So when you were doing your training, I was doing my training, that seemed like being a very key part of what was shared or experienced. I remember doing shares with some of my peers, and knowing there were certainly some people that I didn't want to get held in meditation with, when there were others that did. So it's frequency, isn't it? You tune into who you can be in a safe space with.
And this is what all of us are missing when we kind of break down the psychology. So as I go through the experiences and realize, okay, what doesn't feel resonant, what doesn't feel safe, what do I actually need, and I'm packing those things back together. This is when we're getting into the realms of the higher self, the subconscious, the superconscious. It's just like, okay, well, actually, what are you here to show up as? Well, that clear thing is that I've always known was, that isn't it. Either I'm going to be dead or in prison. Is that what I'm here for? No, there's something else bigger that I'm here for. I know this. This is that sense of purpose actually became really obvious in that moment, which I kind of known and kind of toyed with a little bit egoically, but it was there. So I literally stood on the edge of that metaphorical precipice, looked over the edge and went, I'm done. And overnight stopped using drugs, stopped all those relationships and walked away from it. Now, not everybody has that wherewithal, but this is where I think the higher self and the superconscious like literally stepped in and went, you're done. Yeah. Is this enough? And I'd had psychotherapeutic training at this point. I'd had a little bit of coaching, and in my late teens, and kind of I understood some of these dynamics, and I had these tools intellectually. And in those moments, even though they weren't fully embodied, I was able to say, I'm out.
Yeah. You knew that you had a choice. Well.
I knew there was a choice in that moment. However, when you then look at what's going on in the subconscious, you start to realize that actually those behaviors, they're not made with choice. When you're looking at addiction, when you're looking at trauma reactions, addictive behaviors, toxic relationships, perfectionism, that's not a choice. No. We don't choose. We don't wake up in the morning and go, do you know what, today I think I'm going to do heroin.
No. Sure. So there are some things that we can choose. Obviously, that's a conscious mind thing. But in the subconscious, we're holding so many memories, echoes of all sorts of different aspects of ourselves, our past lives, our inherited predispositions, our cultural predispositions. And it's like, where do I begin and end? And when you sort of hear statistics like, Joe Dispenza will say, or Bruce Lipton, 95% of your mind is subconscious, but you've only got 5% that you can have control over. And it's like, and then you find out that 95% is what's running the show. You're like, how do I get in there? That was what I was so interested about. How do I get in there? And that's why I think, coming through the internal alchemy and knowing there was more, and then coming into being held by you in the hypnotherapeutic space, took me into a deeper relationship with my unconscious mind, my subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it. It was a different aspect of me where things were able to be revealed because I was being held. And this is again, I know I'm going to bang on about this a lot, but it made such a difference to me, who, as a facilitator, holding others, doing my own meditations. But when you let yourself surrender to somebody else's presence and frequency who you trust, then you go deeper. You just do. Have you found that?
Yeah. Something that Anna said to me, my wife, whatever context, for want of better words around it. she showed me a meme, and the meme was the highest level of attainment in a relationship isn't to say I love you, it's to say I feel safe with you.
Yeah.
Because we don't have it, we've never had it, or there have been moments where we haven't felt that, love, that connection, that trust, that safe space. And there's that part of us that is activated ancestrally, that reptilian brain, the limbic system fires up, where we feel like we might be exiled and abandoned and left out in the cold to be eaten by saber-toothed tigers, and that part gets activated and we just don't feel safe. So it's like, how are we supposed to be vulnerable and surrender to that if we constantly think that we're going to be exiled?
So how do we, so it's okay, we're sort of getting through this in that finding someone else that you can be held with and be safe with, but also how do you hold yourself in that safe space?
Yep. And this is, it's trusting the experiences that you've had before. So it's by doing your own work is first and foremost. It's like, yeah, you can do this, but it's also, okay, I hold a coaching session when I learned how to coach, and then I do the reflection work and I build it. Okay, what does that mean to me? What's that bringing up for me? What's that activating for me? Okay, cool. And processing that and holding that with love and compassion. So it's being able to hold myself so that when I speak to somebody else, especially when we're doing one-to-one trauma therapy work, is I talk to people and people go, fuck, he gets it. Like, he gets it. And it doesn't matter what your trauma is or what your experience is when I speak about it, I get it because I know it and I can feel it. And I've had moments in my life and the unpleasantness. And at the same time, I've learned to kind of feel into that and say, it's okay. What happened wasn't okay. You're okay. This is grist for the mill, as Ram Dass calls it. This is the stuff that is the fertilizer, is the compost that makes our lives richer.
But I think there is something that I'm sitting here thinking how much easier it is to let someone else hold you so that you can then enter into the realms that you then can be trained to be able to get into yourself.
Yes. Yeah. And this is where you need that safe space, that safe facilitator.
Yeah.
Most of us that are doing the healing work or whatever, we do it because we didn't get something.
Yeah.
No, the thing that we lack is the thing that we give. Yeah. And I spent 20 years intellectualizing everything I was doing just to prove to the world that I know more than the therapist, so I didn't have to get into therapy.
Oh, that's quite an admission, Nathan.
It's clever. It works. And at the same time,
to a certain extent, and then I think I'm tripping myself up here, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly that. And all of a sudden, I've got this skill set where I've learned this and I've applied this and added these, and now all of a sudden, I've got this kind of modality that I'm using that is really potent and powerful because actually I've learned all these things. But by learning that modality, that right modality for you in that right moment with that right person, something opens all the doors and everything just clicks into place and makes sense. And all of a sudden, you become safe in yourself. Therefore, you're a safe container for somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. And sorry.
No, I was going to say, but then this is the part where you're saying is like, then having someone else hold that for you is like, you've got your own confirmation biases. It doesn't matter how good a healer you are. It doesn't matter how good a coach you are. If there are things that your mind does not want you to see or to explore or to try and push away, it's going to do everything it can to keep you away from them. But then when you can sit in a space with somebody else that's doing their work that you feel safe with, when we do the hypnotherapy work or even like the hypnotherapeutic meditations, it's your subconscious showing you what you need. It's a safe place where your subconscious can open up and say, and show you the things, allow you to see the things you don't allow yourself to see in a loving, held way with a person that that can ratify and calibrate and support and nurture. What does this mean to me? What's this coming up? Okay, cool. And it's just like, doesn't matter what you throw at me. Why? Because now I've had people pull guns on me. Not a lot phases me.
Right. Yeah. You've got to be prepared for that. What was it that you were saying at the beginning of your journeys? Is that if there's a monster that's coming towards you, go towards it. And it's like, really? Yeah, because it's just an aspect of you that wants to be seen, and because you're in a safe held space. It's like being brave. I often say this to my clients now, is like, really honor your courage to enter this realm and be prepared to engage with yourself in this way. And I think there is a lot more courage around than we realize, and I think when people are held and they're heard, that ignites their courage. They're then ready to follow their heart and their soul purpose. But the being witnessed and being held, I think, is a really, really key energies for me anyway. I don't know, what do you think?
And it is to be held. And it's Tom, who you know, my friend, my teacher. And when we're doing the inner child stuff, that sense of not being shocked, because of the experiences I've had and the traumas that I've gone through in those moments, whether it's, with a gun or whether it's hospitalization or whatever it is, there's not a lot that phases me because that's happened to me and I've processed that. Yeah. But at the same time, he also says, if you're doing inner child stuff, it's like, imagine you're there and you've got your small child and they're 3-4 years old and they have a nightmare and they come running into you, as often children do when they're small. They go, Mommy, Daddy, I had a nightmare. And you're like, there, come and sit next to me. Tell me all about it. Just, tell me how you're feeling about it. But not if it's got werewolves in it, right? If it's got werewolves in it, I don't want to know about that because that's terrifying, right?
And guess what?
And it is. And at the same time, but as that child then goes, hold on a minute, there's a caveat here. There's something I can't, what else can't I tell you? What if I offend you? What if I upset you? And you're the person I love. It's just like, at no point can anybody, and I'm setting the boundaries in the group experiences, can anybody share anything that's going to be upsetting or going to be shocking to me, because that's their experience. This is what needs to be held. If I balk and run away from it, they're not going to feel safe, so they wouldn't come back to that experience.
So this comes to being so talking practically here about when you are a facilitator and you're creating a safe space for people, the methods that you use to prepare yourself for being in that space is, of course, one's presence, but that connectedness to the earth, really, really important. But also how you clear your zone, what it is you do and how often you do that. And I remember ages ago, before I'd even met you, Nathan, there was I think I was friends with you on Bookface or something, and he was saying, I just clear every morning, get up, get my Palo Santo out, do some clearing, or maybe I use white sage this morning. I'm like, God, this guy's on it. He really likes this. I'm going to have to talk to him one day. And here we are, because I feel and I know that you know this as well, that clearing is the most important thing. We have to keep coming back to clear, to clear, to clear. And I don't think you can do enough clearing, can you?
No. And there's different layers to it. And funnily enough, different layers and different approaches to it. I was talking to a lady about this recently. Yes, I've got white sage. Yes, I've got cacao. Yes, they've got all their own different, and Palo Santo at times. They've got their different reasons and significances and what they're helping to clear, and whether you're using black sage or juniper or whatever, it doesn't matter. Smoke is a cleanser. It's great, and it's cacao is opening up the intuition and the third eye and cleansing and shifting and stuff. So yes, I'm using this in different levels at different times.
Okay, I don't know if I know that one. What did you say it was?
Which one? Cacao.
Kapow, like kapow.
Not quite.
Is it Kapow? No.
It's like literally it's resin. It's tree sap.
Okay.
COPAL, cacao resin. Smells beautiful, like really beautiful.
COPAL. Okay. And as you were saying that, you can use whatever, but your intention is really important, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. This is even so. What am I clearing for? It's there's element of it is habitual because I've been doing so. Why am I lighting sage? Because I know it clears the space.
It's like a ritual.
And I know it does. Yeah, I know it does that. So I can light some of that. I can just kind of blow it on me, or kind of offer it to the person that I'm working with, whether virtually or face to face, doesn't matter. And then open the window and let the smoke move out. Cool. It's all well and good. You're burning incense and stuff, but you're still breathing in smoke. So you don't really want to be sitting in a cloud of that, no matter how spiritually healthy it is for you. It's still going to have a problem with your lungs. And then having the right aspects around. And then, so there's two aspects to this. One is, what are you clearing with and why are you clearing with it? So before I was using hape, tobacco snuff.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great for grounding and centering and pulling you back in and connection to source. It's fantastic. And I was using it in the morning, and then it started to become that I was using it before a client. And then if it was a heavy piece of work with the client, then I was using it after the client. And all of a sudden you start to realize that this now isn't a healthy part of the ceremony. It's like now it's losing its ceremony. It's losing its significance and taking me in a different way. Okay, how's this impacting me health-wise, physiologically?
Okay, so you're always checking in with yourself.
Yeah.
How is this really, especially if you've got an addictive personality, which loads of us have.
Yes.
You get one thing tends to replace another, doesn't it? And you have to just watch yourself and go, woo, just won't buy any more biscuits then. Just don't let them in the house.
And it's to have that conversation with you again. It comes back to, okay, well, what skill sets have we got? Am I a safe person? How am I showing up? What am I running away from? What's the story? What am I protecting myself from? And just look at, okay, even when we look at the medicines, if you have too much medicine, it becomes a poison. That's why you have a recommended daily dose. So it's exploring these about how am I clearing my space, and making that better for myself. And also,
what you're then putting in in the space. So you cleared it out. So I'm always using sound. Sound is one of the things that I draw on a lot to bring in that frequency to the cleared space. And also it helps me to activate my sound, my voice, and I feel that rippling through me and connecting me to the earth. And then it's like, okay, there's another grounding technique that I can use. And I quite like encouraging people to use their sound, use their voice, and create that frequency of truth within them, and to get used to clearing their voice. In fact, quite a lot of people coming through the Akashic Records Super Subconscious clearing, when I ask which chakra is feeling more stagnant than others, it's more than often it is the throat. So many people have either taken on vows of silence, had past lives where they had ropes around their neck, or strangled, or was told to sit in the corner and be seen and not heard. All these kind of ways of silencing us. And that's our heart, not only does it vibrate a frequency, a huge frequency, but it wants to be able to speak through us as well. Speaking our truth is such an important part. And right now we are actually recording this on Wednesday, the 21st of February, and Julian Assange is in the high courts right now, and he is standing up for all of us for this freedom of speech. And so by the time you listen to this, we're going to know what the outcome is. But I really feel that this piece about freeing your voice and freeing the truth that wants to come from deep within you is a key part of what we as facilitators are helping people to empower themselves with at this time. Do you think?
100%. So when you're saying that, for me, it's like, do I feel safe to speak? Do I feel safe in myself? Am I safe enough to speak my words, to speak my opinion, no matter how old I am? And it doesn't matter. It's that whole thing is, where do we get a trauma from? And what a trauma could be, I wanted to see what the orange crayon looked like on the floor wallpaper, and I did that. And then mum shouted at me. That then becomes trauma. So then you stop expressing yourself, you stop creating, and our voice is that expression. So the safer that we can feel, often with the guys that I work with, when we're looking at the cacao and we look at the chakra systems, etc., the first one that Matt likes to start with is the throat, so we can open up that freedom of expression, and then we can work back through the chakras in the right way. But it's that freedom to express, a freedom to feel. But
it's also there wants to be in the mouth and the throat. That's the first place that the cacao comes to. So you're actually, because you've been chanting into her Mama Cacao and doing your connections with her there, and then she enters your mouth and your throat. It's the first chakra, isn't it? So that's really nice. So as you can gather, Nathan and I could probably chat for a good while. And what I'd really like to ask you now about is, let's talk about this super subconscious or subconscious realm, or higher self. What are we talking about here? Is this everything that is not our conscious mind, and all these different layers? And come on, help me out here.
So the way that I look at it, and actually it came through to me in a medicine, it's not even plant medicine, earth medicine experience, is we have 3 layers of consciousness. This is the way that I see it, and the way it was interpreted to me and shown to me. We have the conscious mind, we have the subconscious mind, and we have the superconscious. Now, when we're doing the work, we can learn these things. We can learn psychology, psychotherapy, coaching models, business models, etc. This is your cerebral. This is the conscious mind at work. And for me, that's like traveling at maybe 50 or 60 miles an hour. You will get where you need to get to, but it will take you a really long time to get there.
Okay.
But then when we get into the subconscious, which is the place where all the belief structures and the purposes and the ethics and the stuff that's encoded into our system, and this is at the point where we start tapping into who we are, why we are, what we came here to live with. There's elements of that woven in discreetly into our DNA, into that consciousness, but then it gets overlaid with other people's sediment, other people's stories, other people's belief structures, because of the dynamic of the human experience and how all human babies are actually born prematurely, is why that stuff can be imprinted. So there is this, but it's understanding that there's those layers of subconscious mind, the archetypes, the aspects of our persona. There are hundreds, if not trillions, of aspects of our personas, past life, ancestral life, the archetypal parts of us, all woven into that. Plus, then we've got the trauma overlaid over the top of that, which stops us from getting to those things. And the myriad. So the subconscious is running 95, 98% of the show. But on autopilot. So it's how do we get into that, and how do we access it and fine tune, shift narrative, release ourselves from the life lessons that we've received and the experiences that help us to accentuate who we are and our gifts and our magnificence. We have to go into that. So when we start doing that reprogramming and in that subconscious space, we're now traveling anywhere between 70 and 120 miles an hour.
Okay, back up.
Yeah.
Reprogramming.
Yeah.
So this is a big part of what we're about, isn't it? Yeah. So when I remember that first journey with you, and I went in and I actually went deeper for the first time in a long time, I knew I could access that realm, but hadn't been able to do it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I got in there, and because you use music a lot as a way of being able to hold space, you set it up and then you leave the music. And then I found that it wasn't words that I was connecting with, it was images, and it was colors, and it was sort of geometric sort of flows or whatever. And I'm thinking, what is the language of the subconscious? And it's not really English, is it?
No, it's not. But then kind of you're getting into these layers. So biologically, where we kind of the conscious cerebral stuff that we do on a daily basis is here in the neocortex. Now, the neocortex, which is the youngest part of the brain, is 200,000 years old. It's responsible for data, information, analytics, numbers, and it creates language. But it doesn't create emotions. Right. The subconscious, which primarily lives here in the limbic regions, the base of the skull, top of the spine, the amygdala, however you wish to pronounce it there, that part of your brain is responsible for emotions, fight, flight, survival mechanisms, but can't create words. Right. So you start to see how there's this disconnect. Yeah. And everything that we experience when we receive it has to go through the brain in the order that evolution created those parts of the brain. So it has to go into the emotional part, the fight or flight reflexes, before it even gets to the logical part of the brain. That's why sometimes when we have certain experiences, it's not logical, but I'm really scared of that spider, even though it's freaking tiny. Doesn't matter. It's going through your limbic region before it even reaches the logic. Yeah. So when we see that, and it's like, okay, we are working in the realms of pictures, of feelings, of images, of texture, of sensation, of visceral muscle, like it's not muscle memory, more like the fascia, that fascial memory that we're holding within us. So it's then going to give you things, metaphors to play with in order to unpick the story, to unpick what's going on. What's this showing you? What's this reminding you about? Oh, that feeling, that sensation, that, because that part of that part of your brain that isn't, it is responsible for that, works in pictures.
Yeah, exactly. And so if we're getting back to clearing again here, so if we are, so all of our cells are wired for clearing. That is, if our cells didn't excrete, then we'd be dead within moments. And our clearing system is really important. So we have this natural ability to clear and cleanse. So is our psyche wanting to do that as well? Is our consciousness wanting to clear and cleanse? And so I need to give it space to be able to do that, right?
Yes. Yeah. And we do that inside the subconscious mind primarily.
Right, because the conscious mind is trying to control everything, and it's like, ease up the pressure, will you? And I often find, that invite the conscious mind in. I'm not leaving you behind, but we just don't want any of that hamster wheel stuff right now. Yeah. Let's bring it on board, and go in together as a team, because ultimately you want to kind of unify aspects of yourself, not have all these bits everywhere that are not playing nice. Remember when I was first introduced to psychosynthesis, and that was sort of described in that way, these different aspects of self, and it's like getting them to unify, getting them to chat with different areas and making deals with each other. Oh, that really helped me a lot in my mid-30s. So it is that getting into a safe space to be able to do the clearing that is required so that you can step more and more into your authentic self and into your soul purpose. And I think this is why the work that we're doing right now, that we're following through the channels that be, we get asked to do what we do, is why it's so relevant now. When we look at the levels of toxicity and untruth on the planet, and it's like, well, what can I do? Look at yourself, like do some more clearing on yourself, and all of us are, even where we've been doing it for a while, whoa, there's still plenty to go,
Yeah. But this is, Ram Dass said it again, is the only thing that I can do for you is work on myself, and the only thing you can do for me is work on yourself.
Yes.
So everything is, again, it comes back to this metaphor. Everything that's happening around us is a metaphor of what is unresolved within us.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether it's nature or conflict or a geopolitical situation, whatever. Everything is a metaphor for what's playing out inside of us on a micro level, on a macro, as above, so below, as within, so without. All of those things is understanding that there's those connection points. So then when we see that thing, rather than us pointing our finger at it, which is us going outside of ourselves and blaming the world and victim consciousness, we're then asking that question, okay, what is that showing me about me? What triggers you externally is what needs to be worked on internally. What is that giving me access to? Therefore, then the thing that's happening around you, in nature, in the environment, with animals, with the way they behave, in your family, at work, whatever, then becomes a window with which you can see more clearly yourself. And then at that point, it becomes the invitation. Does that window now become a door which I can then walk through to do the work? So in order to walk through that and do the work, we need the subconscious mind to start shifting things and percolating and allowing us to move it around in healthier ways. Because everything that you're seeing in there, like you were alluding to earlier, everything that you're seeing in there is an aspect of your mind. Whether it looks like a monster, whether it looks like someone, whether it looks like is all parts of your mind. It's just that when we are working in, or we are dissonant and disharmonic and dysregulated, it's like we've got files that have been taken out of places and left in the wrong places. So when we do the hypnotic process, whether it's a group experience on a new moon or whether it's deep one-to-one inner child work, what we're doing is we're defragging the hard drive and we're collecting the components and putting them back into the right place so that the mind can work optimally. Because we've been taught not to work optimally, because then you stay distracted, and we know what to do with you when you're distracted. We can sell you these products and we can keep you busy and we can overwork you and we can medicate you and so that you don't think about all the stuff that enables you to be a fully sovereign, fully conscious entity on this planet.
Exactly. So when it comes to this whole taking responsibility for what you're being triggered for, that although it can be painful, you want to blame, you want to kind of put it out, but when you go, I'm responsible for that, I am being triggered because of something in me that needs to be, that was one of my biggest learnings, love the triggerer. Oh, really? Yeah, because you wouldn't go there unless someone triggered it within you. And so this word responsibility, or response ability, the ability to be able to respond to what's coming in, not react, but respond to it, brings you to a place of personal power, because then you can do something about it. Whereas if you're victiming and blamey shamey, you're stepping out of your power. You're saying, I can't do anything. What can I do? It's like, you can. And I know that each one of us is just a little tiny ant on the planet. But when we raise our frequency and when we connect with and hold one another, that all connects and it grows and it builds, and every single one of us, every choice that we make matters. It really does, even though you don't think you're very big and you don't, we look at the universe. So there's this thing, macrocosm, microcosm. I'm a tiny ant, but I've got a big heart, is kind of something the brain or the conscious mind struggles with, but the unconscious, super subconscious gets it. It gets that you are like a superhuman, really, but you have to manage being a confined human in this bodysuit for a period of time. I don't know where I'm going with this, really. Help.
No, it makes perfect sense. And kind of to elaborate and kind of give a little bit more context to some of those two things you said, that one thing that you said about that ability to respond is enabling us to stop reacting. And still, when I break this word down for people, is because when we have that moment and we react, what are we doing? We are actually just acting a past moment in the present, which stops us from creating the future. We're not able to respond in that moment because of the faulty programming, the faulty insights, the limited beliefs that we've had given to us and put onto us. So in those moments where we have this clarity, where we're able to introspect and go, hold on a minute, let's rejig that, that's actually giving us a choice point, which we've never had. Like I said before, addiction isn't a choice. Marianne Faithfull said it beautifully, and she said, heroin saved my life. That we do these things to kind of maintain a status quo so that we can just survive, and that's not what we're here for.
Sure. Yeah. We're here to thrive, and this is what we're getting to as we are stepping into creating the new earth.
Yes.
Is what is it we want? What is it we don't want? What are we ready to let go of? And what is it we do want? So this calling in, what kind of future? And you can do the 3D version and think, yeah, I want the 3-bedroomed house and I want the pond at the end of the road and all of that. Or you can go with, or you can go with, how do I want to feel? Who do I want to be around? What kind of interactions do I want to have? What do I feel like I want to be giving to the or something? And I think that tuning into the feeling, I find this when we're asking people to write into their records at the end of a session with me, it's like really, and I see them doing it, so they do it internally, and the energy lifts because they're feeling it. They're feeling what kind of future that they want, and the whole thing shifts. And we are massively powerful beings, and we've been kept so small. And we are here to design alongside one another. This is this big one, isn't this collaboration and this co-creation. And it excites me because we've all got a bit of the jigsaw, and we all, well, a lot of us were encouraging each other. Come on, Nathan, do more of your spirit medicine. We want it in the world. I can't believe we haven't even touched on that yet. But we will send you to a place where you can read more about what Nathan is up to at the moment. But it is that,
yeah. So this is where there's kind of that conscious tipping point. So yes, we're playing this 3D reality. This is the physical plane which we came here to experience. We are a spiritual being having a human experience, and many of us hearing this know this. And the human experience is absolutely essential for our spiritual evolution at the same time. We can't have one without the other. So we have to have a grounding in this reality, and we have to have a grounding also in the other, so they complement each other, and there's a balance between those things. The soul aspect is very masculine, and the spirit is very feminine. The soul is very earthy, and the spirit is very feminine, and kind of pulling up. So it's understanding these different densities with which to play. So when we exist, and everyone's going, oh yeah, 5D consciousness, new earth, and and it's just like, right now, new earth is a frequency, is a vibration. 5D is a state of consciousness, a state of living. It's compassion, it's kindness, it's humility. Great, fantastic, yeah. And at the same time, I know this because I've experienced this, and you will for sure, Clara, with or without a hypnotherapy, with or without a plant medicine experience, there have been times when we've stood in a ceremony, in a retreat space, in a whatever, in a physical reality, and we have seen the fabric of the universe, or what we perceived it to be, overlaid over what we're seeing in that moment without tapping into anything. Okay. So this is then when I'm kind of getting into the realms of super consciousness and 4D, 5D, 10D, as far as I've gone with some of the medicine work, is being able to see that. But in quantum physics, they call it the observer effect. Yes. When you look at something, it becomes it. We know this in manifestation as, the law of the law of attraction is when I think about this thing is what it becomes. But that's backed up with the law of assumptions. The law of assumption says is what you actually believe is what you'll actually get, not what you think you'll get. So you've got this mixture of things going on. So as people start to recalibrate their thinking and come back into the subconscious to remember who they are, where they came from, that they're all part of the unified field, they're all part of the conscious, the one consciousness, and part of light and love and all those things. Great. Slowly, what will happen over a course of time is we will shift into a 5D consciousness where more people can actually work in that way and see that. Because once upon a time, people who saw that, they were committed to mental asylums.
Yeah.
In Western, so-called Western civilization. In indigenous populations, they were called shamans. Yeah, or the Shay person, or the whatever. Yeah. So that's normal to those people. And more people are now seeing that.
Yeah, and the shaman would be the one that would have a foot in each realm.
Always.
So so this is the where we are, we've got 1 foot in 3D and 1 foot in 5D, if we want to give them those names, but we're in different frequencies. We're straddling the different frequencies, and being able to manage ourselves doing that, which is a hugely tall order. But when you're not on your own doing it, when you have your support network and you can reach out and you can go, what were the solar flares like today, or something, what was going on in life, what's happening with the astrology, it kind of takes the pressure off. That's why I've got a headache. Okay, more water. Honestly, really, if I ever get anything going on, it's like more water. Just do the water bit first, and then go out in nature if you can. If it's raining, there you've got water and nature at the same time. But it is using simple ways to ground and connect whilst opening and receiving, because a lot more people are receiving information coming through now, and it's all codes and frequencies and all that, and it's quite exciting. It's like, if we don't ground it, like you say, there's an essential part of having a physical body that we're bringing it into existence through our very physicality. So we have to take care of our bodies and the different layers in our bodies as well. And this is a super interesting discussion, and I hope that you're finding it interesting there on the other side of the speakers. And God, I'd chat with you for ages. There's one thing that I want to just drop in the pond now, and just say, this is like, where I know you mentioned that with consciousness in the front of the brain and then there's unconscious in the back, but where is our conscious awareness? Where actually is it? Because I remember talking to, was it Ross Bartlett, the psychic healer, way back in conscious living events days, and I think there was someone else mentioned it as well. I can't remember who, but they were saying that we have microtubules in our brains that pick up frequencies and different senses of consciousness. And I'm like, what? So is our consciousness it's not in our bodies, it's not in our brains. There's interfaces there, but actually it's much more than our physicality and our minds can even handle, probably, isn't it?
And so how I perceive it is, when we get into the biology, you have the human brain, you have the heart, and you have the intestine, where you've got chunks of neurons living in those places. So the gut has 500,000, the heart has about 40,000, and then the brain obviously has X number of trillion, billion, whatever it's got going on. Cool. So you've got these memory kind of points where we can process certain things, where we get gut reactions and heartache and all of those things. These are the interactions of our feelings and those memories. But also then we have our fascia, which they believe, from some of the stuff that I've read and heard, operates faster than our nervous system. So
it covers everything. So it's a communication. And when we're doing Qigong, part of what we're doing is ironing that out, because you can get stuck bits in the fascia. Any kind of somatic body work is going to do that. So anyway, sorry, interrupted.
So for me, when you're saying that, is that actually it's like our own internal mycorrhizal network. When you actually look at it, it looks like a mycorrhizal sheet almost. So we've got this thing going on, holding some level of consciousness, some sort of awareness, because it's firing all those messages inside of us. But then the other parts you have to start looking at is, okay, the heart can send out a frequency up to 15 feet or whatever it is, and we have our own toroidal field, which is interacting with everyone else's toroidal field, and we have internal toroidal fields, and then you've got the earth and it's just like, basically we're just a bunch of kind of giant donut and energy donuts floating around, and the same with the photon belt that we're now moving through, which is another giant energy donut in space. So you've got all these aspects going on. But then for me, then the interesting thing is understanding that water holds memory.
Water, I was glad you mentioned water, exactly. And we are made up of
70% water,
at least.
At least, we are aquatic animals walking around in our own bags to keep ourselves hydrated. Okay, we haven't actually left the water. It's still us. We're still saltwater creatures. That's why we have saline. So when you start to kind of look at that, it's like, okay, we're holding memory. When you look at what happens to water when you drink it, it becomes liquid crystal when it changes its molecular compound. When you look at like battery elements that are kind of using some of these aspects, and computer functions, etc., these similar sort of dynamics. And then we look at how much water is actually stored in the world. I mean, we can go and drink a glass of water, and actually we're drinking dinosaur wee.
I know, isn't it? This whole recycling system, and hence we're getting back to that clearing and how important it is to have clear water and to be able to feed your system, because then it can hold whatever memory. And I think that's why what struck me is that if water holds memory within you, be really careful what you say to yourself, because the waters are going to hold that. And I think that's really helpful with, like, when you bring in personal affirmations, that you know that your waters are resonating with that truth, or you're using sort of sound bowls, or you're making your own sound with the truth there. Your waters are starting to hold that frequency for you.
Yeah. And it's important when you see the photos of the water, when you subject it to certain language, certain music, and the way it kind of shifts its patterns, etc. So for me, when you talk about where's that consciousness, where's that held, you can't get away from the fact that we're all holding a piece of the puzzle. We are all part of the consciousness, because the water that was in you at some point has left you and passed through me at some point, whether it's from the rain, whether it's from, and so on and so forth. We're going through these kind of filtration processes where we're holding a part of the memory, we're filtering it out, we're filtering another part, and then passing the water back on, and so on and so forth.
Oh, so do you think, that as we pass the water on, it's holding some of our frequency in it?
Yeah.
And so we can literally wee or sweat out positivity just because it's been in our bodies, and add that to the waters of the world.
Potentially.
I like that.
If we're doing it from a healing perspective, yes. When we're doing water blessings, etc., when we're in ceremony, those sorts of things, great. It's also being mindful, okay, what are other people holding?
That's true, actually.
What dialogue are they, what drop are they adding to the pool of meaningful dialogue? But how do we clear it in us? Exactly. So that actually when they ingest that and that becomes part of we're encouraging that thing for them to happen.
Exactly. And just we keep coming back to our remit of, like, if we can shift and change, because there are people waking up, and this strange sentence to make, we're all awake obviously because we've got our eyes open, but that being awareness of consciousness is coming on board. Daily there's hundreds, probably thousands of people every day going, hang on a minute, something's off here. I've just sort of noticed something major and I can't not see it now, and that's just, it's like a wave going around our planet, and not before time. I mean, we need this right now. But there we coming back to holding each other, because when you come through these big shifts and changes, if you haven't got other people in your neighborhood or your field that you can talk to, you can feel, anyway, let's do that a whole nother topic another time, because I think this, how we support each other, is important. But anyway, is there anything that you'd like to finish off with here, Nathan?
Yeah, and it's leading on from what you just said there. We need community this time more than ever. If we're looking at this age of Aquarius, with Pluto shifting through Aquarius the way that it is, Aquarian energy can be very much kind of in the world, but not of the world. In its higher octaves, it can be very intelligent and kind of aware of what's going. But in its lower octaves, it can over-intellectualize, disconnect, and kind of extract itself. So we need to come together and have these collective experiences. So when I'm holding space with the spirit medicine ceremonies on Zoom, new moon, full moon journeys, it's about creating a space for people to do that. Like to have a safe space where you can come and just be held, clear yourself, use your own tools. Because all I'm doing is creating that super profound relaxation and telling you a story. And your mind will take components of that. So
and playing us music.
And playing music, yeah.
It's really lovely, because that holds the space for a process to go on.
Yes.
And I think because if you haven't got that as a facilitator, if you've just got space there and you know that you want to hold that for at least 5 minutes for someone, you can do that when you're present one-to-one, because they're where they can feel you. But if you're online, they're like, are they still there? But also the music that you choose is very specific. You really hone that. You're a real artist when it comes to that curation of music, and it just seems to drop in just right. And that's something that I've learned from you as well, is using sound to hold space for people, and to invite them in to either commune one-to-one, which I know you do as well, but also in these group settings, and knowing that whoever is attracted to your frequency is going to be someone I can get on with. So you trust that core of the frequency that you're holding to the people that are attracted to that. And I absolutely love coming into your sessions, and I really appreciate the replays, because then I tend to like doing my meditations early in the morning before I've really woken up. And I get Nathan in my ears talking me through some sort of aspects, and I come in and out of it, but I always then have something will have occurred and shifted that will set me up for the day. And, you know, I don't do that every morning, but I'm very, very, very appreciative of what you've brought through into my life and what you're bringing through to so many people. And wait until the spirit medicine really lands, because that is a magical set of skills and, well, within books and oracle decks. And yeah, well done, Nathan, really, for everything that you're bringing through and for all that you be.
Thank you, Clara, for having me. Hope it helps.
Oh, yeah. If you want to sort of continue this conversation, then drop any comments can't even speak, below here on the YouTube. And if you're listening on podcast, come over to Clara Apollo's Chi Time and put comments on the YouTube. And if you haven't been here before, you're not a subscriber, just click the subscribe button, and then you'll get to know who's coming up next. And Nathan, where can people find out more about you? Where would you like them to go?
The best place at the moment, even though it's still being built and most of it's there, is the website, which is www.spiritmedicine.world. It's the best place. Or come and find me on the Facebook group, which is Deeper Healing and Beyond, all one word. And you can find me in both those places, and you can stay up to date on Eventbrite with the journeys that are coming up.
Brilliant. We're looking forward to doing something in the summer together. Ooh, watch this space.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you all so much for listening and watching, and I hope this has been useful and that you will continue to help you empower yourself and ripple all those waves of positivity into the world. And know that if you've got traumas and worries and fears, you're not alone. We're all processing this stuff and we're all in it together, and we're here to help. So thank you so much for listening and watching. See you next time. Keep your chi up, my friends. Your energy is important. So are you.